I have here a 65-inch curved screen Samsung, which has these One Connect boxes. This is the model UN65HU9000, and the customer sent in his One Connect box because the HDMI ports started malfunctioning. Now, I do have a mirror under it so that you can see what's on screen, and currently it's displaying the Please Connect One Connect box, so we're gonna go ahead and do so. The TV turned off and back on. We get our Samsung logo now. Now I do have a little bit of a crack on the screen. This is why this is our test set, so don't worry about that. We're gonna plug in our HDMI into HDMI port number 1, and then using our source, we'll go ahead and navigate to HDMI 1. We are on our HDMI 1 source and no signal. Now I've already checked all 4 of our HDMI ports and all of them do say no signal. There is one more thing I do want to try, so let's remove the circuit board and plug it back in. Okay, I've removed the circuit board out of the One Connect box. We do have our One Connect cable connected as well as our HDMI cable, and the thing I want to check is for any components getting abnormally hot. So more specifically, there are 2 HDMI processors right here, and I do have it selected to HDMI 1, and when I put my fingers on here, I am feeling that this one is actually getting significantly hotter. That's not really supposed to happen, and to me that is an indicator that there's a good chance that this chip right here is defective. So what we're going to do next is bring this circuit board to our bench and do some multimeter checks. So we're going to look at this circuit board under our microscope, and we do have 2 of these HDMI processors right here, and what we're going to do to measure whether or not they are faulty is actually flip the board over to the back side, and on the back side over here, all these holes that we're seeing, that is the exact center of that processor chip on the front side. And so what this means is all of these components on the back are connecting directly to that chip. So what we're gonna do is check for shorts on some of the capacitors on the back. If the capacitors are measuring a short, the capacitors themselves are very unlikely to be shorted. So what that would indicate is that the chip itself is shorted. So what we'll do is check this one first here. And we are getting 10.5 ohms. I do consider that to be such a low reading that it would be a short. Now, I don't remember the exact reading we're supposed to get for these, but I do believe it's around the 70, 60, maybe 90 ohms. Okay, so this one, yep, next to it we're getting 2.4 kilo ohms, so that's much higher. Let's check out some of these smaller ones over here. 554, that's okay. Okay, over here we're getting 10 ohms, so again, that's very low. Even though it's not 0 ohms, it's still much lower than it should be. Okay, 10 ohms, yeah, so we're getting multiple 10 ohm readings. So to me, that would confirm that that processor is defective and needs to be replaced. All right, so I am using some bottom heat to preheat our board. We're gonna put a little bit of flux on all corners of the chip. And now sometimes I do like to put a little bit of solder on the pins before I do my heating. On this one, I think this chip is small enough that we don't really need to do that. So we're gonna use our hot air because it does have a bottom pad. All right, let's give it a little nudge, see. Nope, it's definitely still on there. Okay, this chip is not coming off. All right, so I did spend about 20 to 30 seconds at 400 degrees Celsius with our bottom heat, and the chip did not move. So that tells me that either the chip actually might have melted a little bit and fused itself to the board, which does happen. Now, I don't know the exact specifics of how that happens or why that happens, but I've seen it happen on a couple when there is a lightning strike or power surge that comes in through the HDMIs. But at this point, what I'm thinking I'm gonna do is I am gonna add that solder on all of those pins, and then we'll go ahead and give it another try. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm actually gonna use my soldering iron to help melt some of this solder and heat everything up at the same time as I'm using the hot air. Okay, and everything does look quite molten. And yet, oh, there it is, okay. All right, and while my board is very hot, I'm gonna go ahead and remove some of that extra solder. So we're gonna remove the big stuff with just the iron, and then we'll use our desolder wick. There we go. All right, we're gonna give it a quick little clean with some isopropyl alcohol. We're gonna add just a little dab of our solder paste to the center here. All right, and we do have a little arrow over here in the top left corner, which indicates pin 1. Okay. So our goal here is to line up the chip as best we can. All right, and we're looking okay. We're a little bit high over here on this side. I think I overcorrected. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Let's check the bottom. The bottom is a little offset. It needs to go left a little bit. Give it just a tiny nudge. All right, I think that'll do. Let's recheck the top. I think we're looking good. All right, so now we'll heat it back up with our hot air from the top. And of course we have our bottom heat at the bottom. We're gonna do about 30 seconds or so, and hopefully we get good contact with the solder paste between the PCB and the chip. Okay, and that should about do it. All right, so the chip has had ample time to cool off, so let's give it a nudge. And the whole board moved when I'm nudging it, so that tells me we have proper contact. So in that case, we can go ahead and start soldering the pins on the outside. We're gonna go ahead and put some flux on there first. So actually, instead of using my desolder wick to remove that blob, I'm gonna do some more flux instead and see if that helps. Ah, I had it. All right, it looks like we're gonna have to use the desolder wick. I didn't want to because sometimes it goes into this infinite loop of I remove too much, gotta put more, added too much, I gotta remove some. Okay, I'm almost there. There it is. Now the bottom actually looks pretty good. Let me just touch it up just a little more to be sure. And this is our first blob. Move it all up. And then this one actually was perfect. I didn't have any extra solder. And the bottom one, I haven't yet added any new solder. All right, and that one looks perfect too. Perfect amount of solder. Did I speak too soon? No, I did not. All right, let's give it a clean. Okay, now we're gonna rake the pins to make sure they're soldered on properly. Ah. Okay, we have one pin over here that bent. Let's zoom in on it so I can show you. So the issue with bent pins is if they're soldered bent, they're a real pain to unbend. If they are not soldered on when they're bent, then usually it's pretty easy to shove it back with a needle. Only thing is this board's actually kind of hot still from the preheat from the bottom. But there we go. Now let's go ahead and solder it back on. So let's re-rake here and just confirm. Yeah, everything's good. Now let's do the same to the left side. All right, and we're all set there as well. All right, now rechecking our board, I remember we were getting the 10.5 ohm short on C3137 over here, and we're now actually getting 1.8 kilo ohms. Let's check a couple of the caps on this side here. 55 ohms, 1.8 kilo ohms. Okay, so a good amount of these are getting either 1.8 or 65, 70 ohms. Now, if I'm sitting on this capacitor, the longer I sit, the higher the value goes, and that's just because this board is still very hot. So as we wait for the board to cool off, it's going to keep rising. So right now it's 83, 84, and it'll keep going up until the board reaches about room temperature. But the point is, our shorts are gone, so we can now go ahead and live test the board back into the TV and make sure that all of our HDMI ports work. We're gonna have our HDMI 1 plugged in here. Let's see, source, HDMI 1. Okay, and we have functionality. That's our DVD. Let's go to HDMI 2, and HDMI 2 is selectable. Wonderful, and we have audio and video. Let's keep going, HDMI 3. HDMI 3, no signal. Oh, okay, there we go, just took a second. So we now have signal. And finally, let's check out HDMI 4. And there we go. Okay, so that does conclude our repair. We now have all 4 HDMI ports working. If you're interested in sending in your OneConnect box for us to fix, we'll have links in the description down below with links to our website. We do a flat rate service with a 1-year warranty for all of our repairs. Otherwise, if you like the video, make sure to leave us a like, subscribe for more content, and thanks for watching.